Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 331. I was white here, kicked off with e4, and we got into the Philidor defense, the third most popular choice after knight c6, defending with the knight, or knight f6 counterattacking my e-pawn, the Russian or Petrov defense. d6, the Philidor defense, and normal replies are d4 or bishop to c4. Both good moves, and taking is interesting. It's the most popular choice in the database, although when I learned this opening, it was either knight f6 or knight d7 were the moves. Knight d7 is kind of a cramped but solid position where black holds on to the center. Knight f6 is sort of encouraging white to push the pawn forward and gain a tempo on the knight. Also a playable position, but white does gain a lot of space. But e takes d4 is interesting. It gives up the center in some respect, but it leaves black with fairly easy development. So bishop e7 was played. Normally knight f6 is played first, and it looks like we might be going out of the opening book when I play bishop c4 here, but actually after knight f6 we're back into a fairly common position. So just play through these normal developing moves, and played a6, and now I play f4, and at that point we're out of the book. So let's just look at the notation tab. So f4 is actually a mistake. For one thing, there's a tactic here that I've been ignoring for a couple of moves. You might want to take a look at this position and see if you can spot the tactic that black has. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. It's the simple center fork trick, the old center fork trick. So he takes the pawn, I take back, and then he forks the two pieces, getting his piece back. So I can get the pawn back, but this leaves black not there, of course. This leaves black with a good position, and the bishop pair. So actually black is better after this, although not not a huge advantage, but a slight edge to black. So he should probably, well, that's one way he could play. The way he played is also good. He started out with the move b5, and this also leads to an advantage for black. So definitely this move, pawn to f4, was mistimed at best. And this diagonal to the king becomes a problem later. Okay, so one thing to always watch out for in these kind of positions where you got the bishop and the knight here is the Noah's Ark trap. So if the bishop drops back to b3, which you might think about doing as a way to keep on this diagonal, then black has the famous moves c5, hitting the knight, and c4, trapping the bishop. This trap is so old, it's known as the Noah's Ark trap, so everybody should know about this one. Watch out for it. So I didn't fall for that one, but I did kind of waste time here by playing bishop d3, because he does the same thing. Pushes once and then pushes again. And he's extended his pawns. He hasn't gained material, but he's caused me to waste some time. I had to move this bishop several times. And if I had just gone directly to e2, I could have at least saved one move there. So black has an edge through starting around here, well, starting after f4 actually, and going through almost all the rest of the game. Black maintains an edge from slight to more than slight. So it's interesting. But I continue to play. It's not like I'm losing at this point. It's just that black has the edge, and he keeps playing pretty good moves. He maintains the edge. So we've reached an interesting point here where there's a tactic that black did not play. And the engine, after it looks at it deeply enough, it decides not to play it either. But it's something you might think about playing in a typical game, even a slow game, if you have time to think about it. So first of all, see if you can spot the tactical idea that black has here, and then see how deeply you can calculate. This is a good calculation exercise. See how deeply you can calculate it and determine if you would play the tactic in a real game or not. And pause the video and think about it. I'll give you some time here. Okay, I'm going to talk about the idea first. So let's put the idea on the board. It's queen here check, drives the king to the corner. Notice I can't interpose with the queen because of this bishop. So king goes to the corner, and then you follow up with knight g5, threatening to come in here, fork the king and the queen, and win the exchange. So that's the tactical idea. And the question is, does this idea work? Is there a defense for white? So if you want to take a look at this position once again, see how deeply you can calculate. It's still a good calculation exercise from this point. What does white have a defense here, and then how does the game proceed? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. The chess engine, I didn't find this. The chess engine finds this amazing defense. Knight to d5, counterattacking black's queen. And now this no longer works, this knight f2 check, because the king can just move away from the check, even threatening to win the knight. And this idea with the double check and the Philidor mate no longer works, because here, of course, if you take with the rook, then knight f2 is checkmate. But you can also take with the knight, and the rook guards the f2 square, so there's no checkmate here. So this is not winning for white. Although it could be a perpetual if black just wanted a draw, but black has the advantage, so he's trying for the advantage here. So that's not the way to play it. After knight d5, then bishop takes. The knight is the way the line goes. Queen takes, and now notice the queen is threatening the rook. So once again, this knight fork is not particularly good. I'll just take the knight and then grab the rook in the corner. So knight here. And then the queen drops back, defending this loose bishop, and forcing some action over here. So now black goes through with this threat, with the check, forking the king and the queen once again, and forcing this exchange. And you might think, oh, finally, we've reached a point where black won the exchange, so this is just good for black. But the calculation can't stop here, because white still has threats in this position. In fact, this is a very dangerous move, because where can the queen go? It has no escape squares. The things are all guarded, except for the bishop. The bishop is not guarded, so he can take the bishop. But after he goes there, then the rook comes here. And the queen still has no squares. Notice the queen is guarding here, bishop is guarding these squares, the rook is attacking here and covering the back rank. There's just no way out for the queen. So black wins the queen, and now this knight is still hanging. The queen's been attacking the knight all this time, so just rook to c8 to defend it. And finally, at this point, we've reached a stable position, and it's roughly equal. So black has 2 rooks for the queen. The pawns are even, and the minor pieces are even. So anyway, that's the crazy tactics that were in that position. Too deep to see in any real game. So I think in a practical game, I'd probably still go ahead and play this move, queen b6 check, and go for it and try and win the exchange. Who knows if white is going to find all those defensive ideas, and even if I had a lot of time to look at it in a slow game, I might not be able to find them all myself. So that's, I suppose, the difference between regular players and grandmasters, or perhaps even between grandmasters and chess engines. The chess engine can look all that way, look down that far, and then decide, oh, not to play that and play some other move, which is slightly better. Okay, so my opponent probably didn't think too deeply about that. He just played knight d5, preventing an exchange of queens. It looks like he's trying to just keep the queens on the board, which makes sense. And like I said, black keeps the advantage, so he's still got the advantage all through this. I develop my bishop and protect my pawn. Goes knight c6, and I get my queen off the d file so I can bring a rook over. And he plays h6. At this point, he did have the idea of playing knight to b4. It would be an interesting way to play. Notice the knight is supported by the bishop here, and it is threatening c2. It's not winning, but it makes white's life a little bit difficult. He's got to figure out a way to defend the c2 square to avoid the fork there between the queen and the rook. So that would have been interesting. Instead, the game continued. Rook d1. He played h6. I went rook d1, and he went bishop c5 check, driving me to the corner. And knight e7. And here I play the move knight d4. And this is an outright mistake. So till this point, black has had a slight edge, but here he could just win the game with a tactic. So this is not a long, deep tactic. This is a short and sweet, simple tactic. So see if you can spot it. Yeah, pause the video and take a time to look at it. If you haven't got it, you should be able to find this one. I'm going to give the answer away now. It is, you can just take this knight, because after I take back, I've got the loose rook hanging here, and he can play this discovered attack on the rook by taking this pawn off with check and then grabbing the rook. So black has won a pawn and the exchange, and so he's well on his way to winning the game after that. So fortunately for me, after knight d4, he didn't spot that and played queen b6, going after the knight, but he could have just grabbed it. So I defend the knight, and he plays rook a to d8, putting more pressure. And now I play knight f5, and at this point my game goes downhill. A better defensive try would have been the move queen g3 here, defending the bishop, so maybe the knight will be able to move at some future point, and also defending this g2 square and getting some ideas of counterattack on black's king. So that would have been a much better way to defend. Instead I played this knight f5, and after I was thinking this would lead to some exchanges, which it does, but I'm left in a bit of an awkward position. After knight takes, I can throw in this tempo move with the taking off the bishop because I'm attacking the queen, then I have to grab the knight. And this rook is just kind of awkwardly placed here. He goes bishop e4, hitting my rook and attacking my pawn. So kind of a 2-for-1 there. So I want to hold on to the pawn, so I, well, first I exchanged rooks, that's right. And then I move my rook here to h5. And he continues with queen to c6, ganging up on my g2 pawn. I defend. And then bishop to g6. Right here, bishop to g6 is not strictly necessary. This pawn is not loose because the queen is defending it. And even though I have a pin on the g-pawn, the h-pawn is not loose because the queen defends it. And he has the move rook d2, which is better. But the move he played is also still winning. Black has a winning edge throughout this section of the game. And rook h4, queen e6. I guess just maneuvering the queen over to the king side here. I go h3, trying to give myself some space. I was worried about back rank mates. And he goes in and grabs a pawn. So he's got material now, and he's continuing with his winning edge. Once again, rook d2 might have been a more interesting way to play. Not only does it threaten the pawns, but it chases my bishop, perhaps to a less active square. Okay, rook to g4 was played here. Yeah, gang up on the g-file, and he drops his bishop back to defend this way. And then I play h4 to try and go after the bishop. And here, once again, he plays h5. Rook d2 would have been an interesting move as well, because even if I play h5 and win his bishop, I have to give up my bishop. So an interesting way to play. h5 gives up a square, actually. I get a nice square from my rook. And so his winning advantage is slowly decreasing. It's still pretty good, but not what it was. Rook to d5. And I grab this pawn. And so he plays rook to d3, chasing my queen. Queen f2, and takes. I take. And queen g4, hitting my rook and maneuvering to attack on the king side. Notice he's also got threats of rook to e1 there with check. So I play my rook to f5, trying to get some counter threats on his king. And finally, this next move is what really lets me back into the game. He plays rook g3, and after this, the position is just about even. And well, he has one really good move here to keep his edge, and still, I guess, still has a winning advantage. He's let me back in the game a little bit, but he still really has a winning advantage here. So if you want to take a second and see if you can figure out the best move for black in this position. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. If you thought rook to e1 check, that's actually a good move and keeps an advantage, so that's one way to play. But the strongest move here appears to be rook to d4. And black is just simply threatening to win this pawn, force some trades, and he's just 2 pawns up in the endgame and will go on to win pretty easily. And I can't take the pawn. This is the main tactical point. Because he can just take here. And this is a check, and it hits my queen, so I need to trade. And this is a check, and so I have to move my king, and then he grabs the rook. So that just loses a whole rook. So he's going to keep all his pawns and win another one of mine. That's pretty good. Instead, he played the move rook to g3 here, and allows me to grab. And now he makes the fatal mistake. So we've gone from he had the edge to he's really winning to he has only a slight edge at this point. To yeah, we're almost even at this point. And then the next move loses. Well, not the next move. He plays here. This is still good. And now he plays the losing move. So he plays rook to d3. Now I have a very simple answer. I didn't see this. I can just take his queen. His rook was really pinned there. If we back up, there's a pin. There's a pin on that rook. So, well, getting near the game, I get hurried and I miss things like that. But I saw another way to win. Rook here, check. King here. And, well, the fastest mate is once again to take the queen. But this leads to mate as well. Check. And he went here. And this is checkmate. He did have one other try, which is interesting. He could have played here. And then queen here, check. Drives the king forward. Rook here, check. I'd seen this much. And actually I can just take the queen and go on to win with the extra material. But there's even better. There's still a mate here with the rook. Queen check. King goes forward. Notice the queen supported by the pawn. And then rook takes queen check. King goes forward. And then where's the mate? The mate is here. Queen to f2 checkmate. So the queen defending the rook and covering all these squares and the rook covering the other squares. So a nice little checkmate pattern. So that's how the game could have ended. Instead, he went for the other checkmate. He went for, after queen f5, he went king h6, and I went for this mate, which is also a nice mating pattern. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.